follow the links below, because in the links below, as you see, we have got the Millionaire Master Plan test link, the Passion test link, all free of charge for you to make sure you're following your personal path towards building your business and getting to a level where you're living the life you want to live on your own terms as an entrepreneur. This episode is a critical episode, the worst mistake you can make when you're starting your business, especially because in the coming episodes, we're going to be going from orange level, which is how do you work, get into flow, and move up to yellow level, which is how to really build that business. First of all, self-employed, secondly, with a high-performing team, and thirdly, with multiple investments. It's all coming. But this one here is the worst mistake you can make. And the worst mistake you can make is to not follow the flow. Not follow your flow, follow the flow. See, have a look at this. I am right now in Singapore. I'm up in the Swiss hotel. We're kind of pretty high up, as you can see. So it's a long way down. And one of the things that I wanted to show you is how when you're high up, you can see the patterns of flow. I mean, have a look at all the cars in their rush hour traffic. You can see them all, and if you wanted to find cars, you'd know where to look. Well, markets work in exactly the same way. Imagine every one of those cars was like a dollar bill. You know, every single day, over $5 trillion every day shows up, it's parked, it shows up, it moves through the day and parks itself somewhere else. A bit like imagining every one of these cars is a dollar bill, where every morning they show up in a pavement or in a garage, they move through the day, and they end up somewhere at night. This is what happens every single day, and if you're looking to tap into those customers or that money, what you don't do is sit out where there is no flow. See, have a look at this. Like, we have a football pitch here, quite a few football pitches, and imagine one of those footballers decides after the game he's going to wait for a cab to go home. Well, obviously, if you're going to get a cab, you're not going to just stay in the middle of the football pitch and hope a cab's going to come to you, because it's never going to come. What would you do? You'd go to one of the roads, and you'd probably not go to an empty road. You'd probably go to one of these junctions here. The cabs are like the blue and the yellow ones down there. You see how many there are? And that's the point. Money is flowing every day. It's right in front of us, but if we're in the wrong spot, we won't even see it. So this is a bit like starting your business up with your best idea and then having to go looking for customers. This is like, you know, starting up in the middle of the pitch looking for a taxi. So what do you do instead? Do you have to go get a job? There are 5 steps to make sure you follow the flow, which is the flow in the markets already. And what I'd like to do is give you a little story of what happened to me when I first discovered this, because I'd started up a few different companies which really, to be honest, were going terribly and didn't even succeed, because in my early 20s, I was doing it on my best idea and with my best learning from others, as opposed to doing what I should have done. And I didn't take the 5 steps I'm about to share with you. So what was I doing? I was doing the typical thing, which was watching the best strategies, social media strategy, or this is how you do your marketing right in terms of brochures, or here's how you build your team. So I was doing all those things, and no matter what I did, they weren't working for me. Why? Because I hadn't connected to flow. It's a little bit like watching someone who's telling you to do a number of things that are working for them, where they're digging off a river, but that's a river where there's flow, and so what happens? They create a new river, as opposed to being in the desert as I was, where I didn't have those customers yet. And so what I was doing was I was digging from the desert, and what do you get? If you're digging in the desert, you do not get a river. You get a hole. So don't go out there starting a business and end up digging a hole where you're wondering why, even if you follow all the best strategies, it isn't taking you anywhere. So what changed? What did I do differently? I took the 5 steps that everyone who's at a level where you're just getting going in business, same 5 steps I'm still taking myself every time I get into a new industry or into a new area of expertise, the same 5 steps that allow you to connect with the flow where there's already flow in the markets. Step number 1 is to ensure you start by creating your job. Now, this isn't the same as going chasing a job. It's not the same as going out there and being in the job market, applying for jobs, because to be honest, that's like almost the worst way you could possibly go out there and get a job. And that's because you're competing with everyone else. So you don't have power on your side. This is about creating a job, which allows you to say, would be my perfect job. And then number 2, who would you want to offer that job to? So rather than waiting for the job offer to come your way, where you're waiting for someone to offer you a job, you're going to the person you want to work with and you're offering them this opportunity. And this is because they're going to make money as well as you. The 3rd step is if you actually find those people you want to work with. And I'm going to go through my experience of what happened when I went out there to find them. The 3rd step is to make sure that you are solving a need they have. So the question is, what need do they have that you can solve? And there's, believe me, even wherever you are right now, there's going to be people in your industry where you can help them solve a particular problem to either make more money or to save money. And so it means it's going to put money in their pocket as well. And that brings us to the fourth step, where the fourth step is, how do you apply your genius to be able to make that happen? So this isn't about just going out there and getting new skills. It's about you doing what you naturally do well already, and it's different for every genius. And then the fifth step is, once you have applied that genius, you've figured out how you're going to make money and how they're going to make money. It's not just about you making money where it's their problem. This is where it's a solution. You do not want to go to people to create problems. You want to go to people to create solutions, and that's when the taxi stops and everyone's ready to pick you up. All right, so what happened to me? I was in my early 20s. I'd had a couple of failures already, and I talk about them in my book. And there's a point in the book you might have noticed. This is the Millionaire Master Plan book, by the way. So, if you're new to this, go ahead and kind of look at the link below, where I actually go through how you can go about getting a book for yourself, and you'll hear my story of how I went from kind of like zero in a new business, which is really starting at yellow level, which is the next one you're going to be hearing in the next video, all the way through to basically where I became a multimillionaire. And this here is how I even got in a position where I could come out to Singapore and start my first business, because this is where it all started when I began that story in my book. So how did that even happen? I was in London, and I'd had a couple of failures, and it was like, well, successes that became failures because I kept on digging in the desert. And then what happened was, I took these 5 steps and intuitively went through them all without really knowing what I was doing at that point, but noticing that all my most successful friends that were doing awesomely had followed the similar steps as well. I started by saying, well, okay, if I could just have a job where I could really learn for a while instead of just jumping into the next thing. If I could become Clark Kent for a moment, because even Superman has to be Clark Kent some of the time, right? I mean, even Superman has to afford those capes and stretchy pants, and it's Clark Kent in his Clark Kent role where he actually makes that money. So I said, right, what would that role be? It would be in the tech industry. I was really interested in the future, as I still am today. I was interested in publishing as well. Who out there was doing an awesome job in the area that I could work with? What value could I give to them? And a friend of mine who knew that I was out looking for something where I could really learn and be entrepreneurial, he sent me an article which was in one of the newspapers about a couple, 2 men who had actually left Michael Dell Computers to set up the global side of Dell Computers. They cashed in their options, and then from there they basically said, we're going to start our own business up. They set up a company called Hand Technologies that had partnerships with Apple Computer and HP, and they were actually selling them through a global network of individuals who are like the techies who could now sell these products as well. The company was called Hand Technologies, and I thought, this is awesome. These are the people I want to work with. So I just phoned up, just off spec, and I spoke to the founder, Martin Slachter. It was a small business at the time. And I said, look, I'm sure you get lots of people coming to you wanting to work with you all the time. I don't want to take up any of your time. I don't want any of your money. I want to prove to you what I can do to make a difference in your business. So as long as you just give me permission to speak to some of your partners, some of your customers, as a potential customer myself, but as one where I'm going to find the way I can add most value to you. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there and either make you more money or save you money in some way. And off the back of that, you can decide if we should do anything together or not. Give me a chance to prove myself. Now, he asked the question that most people would ask if you do that, which is, why would you do this for me? And so I told him why I was passionate about him and his business, why for me I really wanted to learn from him, and a little bit about my history. That was enough for him to say, right, let's give this a go. And to cut a long story short, I went out there, started meeting with a number of different people. And again, remember, I was in my early 20s, so I was there really kind of saying, I can't put my whole time into this. I've got to make money soon, but I'm willing to put at least a month into this to see if I've got the time. He's the one who doesn't have the time, but he's got the money. I want to see a way I can actually really turn this around and work for him. And I did find, and I went to him and told him, I did find ways he could make money with his existing customer base by offering other things he wasn't offering them that he already provided, like coming back for repeat sales. He says, well, give it a go. Go to some of them and see if that's true. I came back with orders. One thing led to another. I actually joined the team. I did it on commission only. He then, after a little while, he then paid me a salary. I went from like helping on the sales and marketing side to actually heading up the sales team, and eventually within about a year and a half became the general manager for all of the UK. And that afforded me the money which allowed me to start up my first business here in Singapore. I followed the same 5 steps. Follow those 5 steps. Even if you've got a great idea for a business, start by saying, am I starting this where I'm in the desert? Or am I starting this where I'm in the middle of flow? The flow is everywhere. Sometimes you just need to look for it. And it's right down there. And it's all connected. This is how every market works. It's in the market that you want to get in. That's how that works as well. So what am I doing today? I'm doing the same thing every time I'm looking to connect with new people in new ways. This next week, I fly to Hawaii. As you've heard, we're going to be starting up entrepreneur resorts and beach clubs around the world. So I'll be looking at some in Hawaii. But I'll also be connecting with the Transformational Leadership Council, because we use these same 5 steps to connect in with Jack Canfield, who was one of the founders of the Transformational Leadership Council. He has his 10th anniversary of an awesome book that I definitely recommend you get, called The Success Principles. And we are creating the Genius Guide to Success with him, using these same steps, which is, who do we want to work with? Love to work with Jack. What's of real value to him? What's a need that he has? Well, let's get out his word to even more people. How do we do it in such a way that he makes money and we make money together? And how do we do it? That we're using my genius, which is in being creative. Maybe your genius isn't in being creative. Maybe you're not a dynamo genius. If you're taking the test, you know what your genius is. Maybe it's more a blaze genius, which means you're more likely to make money for someone by using your connections and using your creativity like I did. Maybe you're a tempo genius, which means instead of helping to be out front and make more money, you might help someone to save money through better service by actually supporting their team to be more successful. Or you might be a steel genius, which means it's the measures. By you looking at some of the things they're measuring and being able to measure them more effectively, you find cost savings, or you find ways that they can actually make more profit as opposed to make more revenue. Either way, it's more money in their pocket, which means at some point they'll be willing to give you more money in your pocket as well. We can all choose our job in that way. So I'm going to go from Hawaii, where I'm going to be connecting up with many of the top thought leaders, and I'll be sharing with you in these videos what I'm learning. And I'll be going then to meet Peter Diamandis and the futurists in America, because Peter, who is the founder of the X Prize, he's one of my mentors. He's someone who has done a great job in Singularity University of bringing all the futurists, scientists, and top entrepreneurs around the world together. He has a group called the Abundance 360 group that I'll be joining, and we'll be hearing all about the very latest technologies and latest trends that are going to impact us in the coming years. And then I'll be in South Africa at the beginning of February to share some of what I'm learning and what I'm doing. And I'll be in Australia at the beginning of March to do the same thing. So follow the links, because I'd love to connect up with you, and I'd love for you to connect with our network all around the world as well. I mean, I have a great belief, as you know if you're following in these videos, that it's going to be the entrepreneurs that are going to make the biggest difference in being able to connect flow up to save many and create many other solutions to our world's issues. You don't have to wait for governments, you don't have to wait for corporations. We can do it ourselves, provided we're connected. So I'll do my part in connecting around the world. And every Entrepreneurs Institute and everything we do, everything about this video is about turning it from like a 2-lane road up to a 4-lane road, up to a 6-lane highway. And as that happens, flow continues to grow. You're a part of that as well. So do connect up and come along to one of our events. All the links are below. Do put a comment here, even if you've just been watching for some time. Put a comment in so we know who you are and where you're from. And then we'd love you to connect with our community too. And do keep tuned to these videos. Share them, get them out there, and watch the coming videos when I will be on my journey around the world, connecting flow, and I'm going to be sharing that on with you as well, together with the next steps to build your business. So whatever you do, do not dig a hole in the desert. Keep digging a river off the rivers that already exist. And with that being said, have a magical week ahead, and we'll catch up with you in the next video.